We are back in your life, and today we're talking about titles. That's right, property titles, the best and the worst. The property nerd, Michael Vincent, was like,
That's my title.
We got to talk about some titles.
Yeah. What's your favorite title, James?
Oh,
Sir?
I love a little freehold.
Freehold. Oh, right. Yeah. Is your house freehold?
What about if you're a doctor, but you're like a doctor of dance?
I've heard that like in the doctor community, it is frowned upon if you refer to yourself as doctor, but you're not a medical doctor. You bet your bottom dollar, if I get a doctorate in anything, if I could have a doctorate in like, I don't know, horticulture, and you would be referring to me as Dr. Vincent.
A bad person.
Bad person.
Makes me think of like when Cooper went to see a doctor in Singapore, and he doesn't have any insults, so he just kept calling him a doctor baddie. He's like, you're a doctor baddie.
What was what happened in Singapore? Was he just like, he just couldn't be bothered going to a local one or better treatment or just like brioche bread line? He thought, no, we'll fly him out to Singapore for the cold.
We're at the airport.
Like I'll send him with the nanny to Singapore. I can't be bothered with him.
Last doctor reference is what about when in The Hangover, when the guy's like, oh, I'm a doctor, but he's a dentist. And they're like, mate, you're not a doctor.
Yeah. Great. I still can watch The Hangover just like anytime. Great movie. Hangover 1, Hangover 2, like unbelievable. That and Snatch.
Oh, great. I know there's people with like influencer at the moment, like battling with the cold. Just line yourself up in bed with a little 3-part series.
Yeah, bangers. Yeah. Producer Emma's telling us to keep going with this.
She's like,
us to go more. She's like, just hurry up and talk about titles, not about
she's going like, I want you to do more of this.
More movie reviews. Yeah.
All right, so titles?
Yeah, titles. So, what is a title? Let's start there. So a title is basically just a record of title of who owns the property, right? There are different ways that you can own a property. There are also different types of properties that you can own. But right down there in the mix of everything is the property title, right? Which is the legal description of the type of property ownership. So, you got freehold, cross-lease, unit title, strata title, leasehold. There's a whole lot of different ones, right? And they all have kind of different meanings and different implications for how you own that property and your kind of rights and obligations.
Freehold's a dream though, right? Freehold is like when people go like corner section, white picket fence. You ain't cross-leasing that bad boy.
No, you're not, but
flat backyard.
Roll the arm over. I kind of think about it slightly differently. If you were to say like, what is your favorite, property title for a first home buyer, I would say cross-lease.
Let's just break it down a little bit. So like cross-lease is a bit of a jargony term. Can you talk us through these one by one?
Yeah, cool. So the first one you got is freehold, right? And this basically means like you own the land, you own the title to the land, no one else owns it, right?
My dirt.
Yeah, your dirt. There might be easements on it and interest and easement. So an easement might be something like a driveway or a pipe that runs through it that has to be on the title. And then the interest might be the bank has a mortgage over it. But fundamentally, that block of land, you own it.
My dirt, not my pipe.
It should be not my dirt, not my pipe. if we're playing that game, which is not my horse, not my stable. The good thing about a freehold property is like it's the most basic form of ownership. You don't own it with anyone else. You're not paying any rent or anything like that. Your dirt, your title.
It's the Michael Vincent of property types. Basic.
Oh, I got some interest on me.
Okay, what do we got next?
You reckon I'm freehold?
Mate,
I'm leasehold.
You're leasehold all day. Cheap, but comes with a lot of T's and C's.
Looks good from afar, but you've got to read the T's and C's. Yeah.
Expensive. Okay, the next one is cross-lease.
Yeah.
Talk us through that. And then I'm also interested, is cross-lease more of an Auckland thing or is it kind of spread across the country?
So a cross-lease title is basically, a lot of it came about, I think it was in like the 70s when they were, subdividing was still quite hard. So like if you had a big block of land, splitting it in two, selling some off. So they came up with this other way of doing it where you basically just draw an imaginary line down the middle and go, right, so we're going to split the ownership of this land in two, but we're both going to own the same block of land, right?
It's a handshake agreement
Yeah, on paper, but pretty much.
with like legal documents.
So basically, a lot of the time what you'll get is, say, two people on a cross-lease. So you both own that block of land. The thing with a cross-lease is that you've got to check the cross-lease documents because there can be requirements on there around, like, if you're doing renovations to the house, the neighbor has to agree to it in some instances. So it's a bit more to it. And it can go wrong because, if both parties are fine and like they're happy with each other and no one's having a scrap, it's all good. If there's really defined areas on the cross lease, like if you look at the property and go, that's my backyard, that's their backyard, that's all good. It's where you get some of those like crossover areas where it's not so defined, or if people are kind of a little neighbors at war, then it can be a bit tricky. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got I think my property is cross-lease. So weird, I don't really know.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
And there's a car park like down the bottom. And that's probably a little bit like up for debate, like whose like that is.
Nah, it's not, you just by force, you just really got to go in hard, like just park the car there, don't move it, put it on cinder blocks, so they can't move it either. And, possession's 9/10 of the law, man.
I might just block my driveway and their driveway, teach them a lesson.
At the top.
Yeah. Let's move on. Unit title.
Yeah, sweet. So unit title is really common with like new townhouses, where you own your house and like the interior of your house and the actual physical property on the land, but you share a common ownership with all of the other people on the unit title for the land underneath it, and then the common areas, so like car parks, footpaths, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Shared dirt, shared pipes.
Shared dirt, shared pipes.
Cool. Strata title.
Exactly the same as unit title.
Why have we got two?
Because it can be referred to as strata title or unit title. You'll hear them kind of interchanged quite a bit.
And I always think, when I think leasehold, I think about the scene buildings in particular. Tell us about leasehold.
Yeah, leasehold. So this is my least favorite type of property. So they're usually apartments. There are some houses out there. You own the house that sits on top of the land, but you don't own the land underneath it. Instead, you actually pay rent. It's usually on an annual basis to the people who own the land. It's not great. It can get really expensive, and it can start cheap, and it can look like a good deal, and then it can get expensive later on. I'm not saying all leaseholds are bad. It's not my thing.
Do you think, like, there's the examples of the apartments where you can buy it for like $1,500 or something because the leasehold's so high?
Yeah. I mean, I actually saw one out near where we live in Koei, and it was $75,000 for the unit. It was like a two-bedder unit down on the flat there. Yeah. And it was, I think it was somewhere in the region of like 10 grand a year for the lease on the land, but it was returning like $800 a week in rent or something. So actually the yield on that is quite good. So there are circumstances where, you could argue that it makes sense to a degree, but for a first home buyer especially, I would just avoid these like the plague. Yeah.
Cool. And at what point in the buying process should you be looking at the title?
It's usually going to be, for most people, if you see something on Trade Me, it's usually going to be freehold or cross lease. They'll usually say if it's freehold or cross lease in the ad. You should be looking at the legal description though before you make an offer on the property, and you don't need to send it to a lawyer to get them to tell you. You can just ask the real estate agent, but it's usually in like the advertising brochures and pamphlets and stuff. But you do want to know before you make an offer on the property.
Do you think there's like a misconception around these different titles and when banks will lend and when they won't, etc.?
I think the biggest misconception is actually around cross lease. So if you were to ask me like what is like my favorite title type for a first home buyer, I would say cross lease, because you have this whole generation of people who, rightly or wrongly, kind of treat cross leases a bit like the leaky buildings, like they're like, no, it's not a cross lease. My dad said I want that. Like, he's got to be, my parents like, no, it has to be a freehold. I can't have a cross lease. So you can actually get a little bit of a bargain there. So I do not mind a cross lease at all. Of course, you want to be checking the terms of those cross lease details, but yeah, like in terms of the lending, it's the leasehold stuff. Like the leasehold stuff is really, banks aren't interested in that. They'll do it, but they don't want to do it. And then on the unit title stuff and the strata title, you just need to watch the body corp fees. But so if let's say you've got a pre-approval from a bank and you can get $800,000 of lending, $200,000 deposit, $1 million purchase price, right? And you are maxed out. Like there's nothing left in the budget, and then you go buy a townhouse, and that townhouse has a $1,200 per year body corp levy on it. That may impact your servicing a bit. You might not be able to go up to $1 million.
So you mentioned like you've used on cross-lease, and if you're a first-time buyer, does your opinion change if it's an investment property?
Depends what you want to do with the investment property, because a cross-lease can be pretty tricky if the neighbors, like if you buy an investment property, like let's say there's 2 people on a cross-lease and it's 2 young families and it's all good, happy days, right? And then a property investor buys this one out and wants to renovate it and, like flip it or put people in there. These people might get annoyed because they're like, we don't want to live next to a construction site for like 6 months. So they might stop you from actually renovating the property. So for a property investor, you really want control over what's going on. And I would say that cross-lease is, just presents a little bit more risk. Yeah.
So if it's...
And it's not, I suppose it is common depends on what you buy. But yeah, I would say for a property investor, you want it to be freehold.
So if it's cross-lease, do you have to get approval to make any changes to the property?
Well, it depends on the specific cross-lease. There are some which are really onerous, where it's like you can't paint the house, or there's, in some instances, like internal stuff that they need to agree to, right? But the big thing with a cross-lease that people need to watch out for is what we call the flats plan. So on the title, there are 2 flats on the title. They're just referred to as flats, right? And the flats plan is the layout of those houses or the flats on that piece of land. So if I go, you know what? I could just extend the deck out by 1 meter, right? And I do that and I don't update the flats plan, you then have a defective title on the property. And that can be a real issue when it comes to financing and potentially insurance.
Come on, Mike, it's just an extra meter on the deck. Surely it's not a big deal.
It is so common that it is like, incredibly frustrating. And some people know what they're doing, some people don't know what they're doing, right?
I think probably another common example is like people like check up a carport, or they turn a carport into like an enclosed garage.
Yeah.
I assume you'd have to update the flats plan with that.
You got to update the flats plan. And if you haven't got the flats plan updated by the time you go to get finance, like you're selling or buying the property, usually there's a couple of options. 1, you got to get that flats plan updated prior to settlement. Or 2, you got to get something in writing that says like we're all happy with the defective title. Or 3, you've got to return it back to the state of the flats plan before settlement. So yeah.
How much does this cost to update a flats plan? Is it just like little drawing and then like bang it to the council? Or?
I actually have no idea because people don't usually update them. They usually just live with the drama and we get it insured. We get something in writing to say everyone's happy with it and you get it insured, then you keep going. The issue with that being is like that neighbor might be happy with it, but let's say they sell their property and someone else moves in, they might not be happy with it,
Oh, you have to get it like reapproved.
Well, it just opens yourselves up for issues, like, and that's what the bank doesn't want is an issue if they're trying to sell the property. So that might be, a defective title might be fine at 70% LVR, maybe 80% LVR because you have that overcapitalization from the bank where if they take a 10% hit because of the defective title, they're not going to lose money. At 90% LVR, it's not okay. So the higher your loan to value ratio, the more strict the bank will be about it. And that can be a real issue for first home buyers. So I said I like these titles for first home buyers because you can get, a bit of a discount sometimes. But you just need to be careful with them.
If we think about like capital growth rates, like these different titles have different growth rates, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah, for sure, man. Like,
I'm not sure the difference between freehold and cross-lease would be hugely different. It'll be the others.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, the difference will be between freehold and cross-lease and like the leasehold stuff. The unit title's probably, halfway. I don't know the stats on it, but yeah.
I think it's quite similar to the like over the last 20 years, standalone houses went up 500%, and then the townhouses went about 350%, and apartments moved like 150%.
Yeah. The issue with that stat though is every time I say it, you laugh because I get it wrong.
Because no, last time you got pretty close. I was proud of you. So, Mike, someone scroll and trade me tonight, and they found the perfect property before they fall in love. And if you looking at Michael Vincent. Sorry, it's already happened. What are the things you want them checking about the title?
About the title. First of all, what is it? So, is it
house?
freehold? Is it cross-lease? Is it unit? Is it lease or whatever? The next thing you probably want to check is like, are there any interests or easements on it?
What's an easement?
Easement might be like, let's say you got a driveway running through or something like that, or a pipe or something.
And interest is the bank.
And interest will be the bank, yeah, or the lender, or whoever's got some security over the property. Those are probably the big things, but like you also shouldn't be just chucking this in Claude or Chat and expect and being like, cool, I've done my own DD. Like you've got to go to a solicitor for this.
That's a great shout. Should we do an episode on like AI horror stories where you try and skip a little bit of money?
I already have AI horror stories, man, from like property, like, and what we've been on this train like 12 months now or something, and it's some bad ones.
All right, pop AI in the comments if you want us to do an episode on people using AI as their lawyer.
No, Michael, you can do the due diligence on this property. A lawyer wouldn't see the things that you're going to see.
You're special.
Man. Yeah.
Just give me a little taster though, Michael. What kind of stuff are you using?
You chuck it in Chat and you go, hey, is there anything I need to know about this property that will cause the bank taking an issue over there? The property goes, no, James, I love this property. It's in the middle of nowhere and it's a beautiful little cabin. It'll be fine. They don't realize what they don't know is that the size of the house is too small to be considered as a house by the bank. So like you're effectively lending against a tent, right? And a bank don't want security over a tent. Yeah.
Good indoor-outdoor flow though?
A lot of outdoor on the property, not a lot of indoor on the property. Like you'd be struggling to fit two people in the indoor on this thing.
Is this an actual story?
This is an actual story.
There you go.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I'm like, people with all of this stuff, people are like, this is where I'm going to save money. I'm like, why? Why is this where you want to save money? You can save money in a property transaction by buying well. You can save money in a property transaction by having your negotiation prepared and having comparables and reasons why you're going in lower. You can save money in a property transaction by getting a good lawyer and paying them. You can save money in a property transaction by getting a building inspection and paying for it. I'm like, this is not the time to cheap out on stuff, man. I get why people want to do it because you're spending a ton of money. And for a first home buyer especially, this might be the first time that you've spent a ton of money on something like this. And you're just watching the invoices go out the door and like, I don't have a house yet, So I get it, but like, it's going to cost you money, right? Like this is one of those times like, like buying a wedding ring, right? You cheap out, it's going to cost you money in the long run because you'll be on your third wife and you'll be 3 rings deep and you're like, that sucks.
I reckon there's a negative correlation between how much the ring costs and how long people stay together.
Got any personal experience, James?
No,
mate. Got any personal experience, Mike?
The set around like the more you
spend,
post on the more Jesus Christ, the more you post on Instagram, the less likely you are to be in a happy relationship.
Yeah, that's why I just post on LinkedIn exclusively. Here's what divorce taught me about B2B sales.
All right, Michael, this is your last chance. What is the final message you want people to take away?
It doesn't need to be freehold. You can buy a cross-lease property. You just need to know the details of the property. Find out if it's defective, if it is a cross-lease before like the 11th hour, which getting a good lawyer will do that for you. Unit titles, be aware of the body corp or any kind of like residence association fees because that kind of can impact the lending a little bit. And then if you want to buy a leasehold property, I don't think it should be your first property. I don't think it should be your second property. Those are really for experienced property investors. And you got to check the terms of that lease because it can be $5,000 the first year, $10,000 the next year, $50,000 the year after that. They can really ramp up. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but yeah.
Do you want to know what I learned, Michael?
What'd you learn?
Not all cross leases are the same. I did not know that.
No, I mean, you can have a cross lease 1 people, 2 people, 15 people, like you can have just cross lease driveways and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot.
There you go. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Make sure to like, review, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.